Hey guys, Offline Gamer here, and today I'm going to be bringing you one of the most anticipated games from 2014's Gen Con 5 Tribes, developed by Bruna Cathala and released by Days of Wonder. It is a medium Euro game where you're going to have a random board set up with some meeples. You're going to pick up the meeples and then do kind of like Mancala mechanic to drop them off on a tile to pick up meeples of that same color, and then you're going to perform an action on that tile. The goal of the game is to get the most amount of victory points, which there are several ways of getting victory points, which you'll see in my component breakdown. After that, we'll come back here and get my final thoughts on the game. Alrighty guys, here we have a 4-player game setup of 5 tribes. This is the game itself set up. I'll go over real quick how you go through the setup, and then I'll show you a couple moves so you can understand how the game works. For the player setup itself, each player gets 8 of these little camels. For like a 4-player game and a 2-player game, people get 11 camels. Pretty good quality camels here. You also get, it is 50 gold coins. So they come in denominations of 5 and 1. These, once everybody has theirs, you kind of flip them upside down so that nobody knows exactly how much you have. Now you got to keep in mind your gold coins are also your victory points at the end of the game. So in setting up the board itself, you can see the tiles that are out right now. It is a random setup every time you play. It is a grid of 6 by 5. And then you take a little bag that they give you that has all the meeples in it. You go ahead and randomly draw 3 meeples per tile, and you set them up, and game is ready to go as far as setting up the board. You do set up a market, which is 9 cards from this little deck that's right here. The deck itself has different goods that you can use. There is slave cards, there is some jewels, some fish, some gold, some pots, some looks like fabric, wheat, spices, ivory, paper, and then once you have, those are your 9 different goods, 10 including the slaves. On the bottom of the cards themselves, they have little dots on them that show how rare those items are. So the more dots they are, that's how many of those cards they are. The different goods make for something that you can do in the actual game itself as far as selling goods to get some money, and I'll explain that in a little bit. On the left hand side, you have your genies. Your genies will give you end game points, but will also let you perform actions on your turn as well by discarding either some elders or some slaves. So to explain to you how each of the different tribes works, let's start with the yellow meeple tribe. It is the viziers. Those, once you pick them up on your turn, they will sit in front of you. They give you 1 victory point per vizier that you have. You also get 10 victory points at the end of the game per every player that you have more viziers in front of you than they do. So it's a good way to get some points there. Your second one is the elder tribe. It is a white meeple tribe. What they do is they go into your hand as well. They sit in front of you. They give you 2 victory points per vizier that you have, but you also use them to purchase the genies. You can either purchase them if you do the action on a tile for either 2 viziers or 1 vizier and 1 slave card. Your next tribe is the merchant tribe, which is the green ones. What those guys do is, depending on how many merchants you pick up the amount of cards that are in the front of the marketplace. So 2 meeples, you pick up the first 2 cards, 3 meeples, first 3 cards, etc. The next tribe is the builder tribe, which is the blue meeple. The blue meeples, the way that they work is however many of the meeples you pick up, you multiply that by the amount of blue squares that are either in the one where you picked up the meeple from or surrounding. So if I were to pick up, let's say, this blue meeple, however many I pick up, it would be multiplied by 3 because these 3 are in the vicinity, are adjacent to this one tile, and you get that in victory points. And then the last tribe is the red tribe, which is the assassins. Now what those let you do is, however many meeples you pick up, you can go up to that many tiles, adjacent tiles away, and kill or remove one meeple from that tile. Now, part of the way that you can score victory points in this game is by clearing off a tile and you claim it with one of those camels that you have. With the assassins, you can actually clear off a tile with the assassin tribe and then go up to that many tiles away and remove another meeple, and if that meeple happens to be the last one on that tile, you actually claim 2 tiles instead of 1 on your turn. So it's a good strategy on how you can get multiple tiles at the same time. So each of the tiles themselves, they have different actions that they can do. The actions themselves are printed on the tile. There's a couple of different ones. There's this one in the left corner, which shows here like a little one of these little gold. They call it a village. It looks like a little palace. Anytime you end your move there, you add 1 to that tile, which at the end of the game, whoever controls that tile, you get bonus points based on those. There's also spaces that they have these cool little palm tree meeples that go down. Again, anytime somebody ends their turn on that tile, you place 1 palm tree down. Owner of that tile gets extra bonus points. So now, other than that, there's 3 more actions that you can do based on the tiles. One is one like this, where it shows a picture of a elder, and then like a top and bottom where it shows a small elder and a slave, and it shows a little lamp. What that means is, as I spoke earlier, you can either spend 2 of the elders or 1 elder and 1 slave card, and you can get one of these genies. Now the genies themselves, like I said, they have different actions. The game does come with a pretty cool player aid that shows you what each of the special powers that the genies have do, as well as what you can do on your turn, which is really neat. I really like the fact that they actually did that with the game. It really does help out playing the game, where you don't have to go back to the rule book a lot. So, to give you an idea how a player turn order is done, the game starts off where you predetermine a set of these little markers at the top there, which you can see. They're all different colored, one per the color of the player. I'll bring it out here so it makes it easier to see. And then you have at the top a little track that you have here. So I'll put this here in the bottom to make it easier for you guys to see. The way that this kind of works is there's some numbers on here, which that is actually how much gold you would want to bid for turn order. So let's say one player wants to bid 1 gold. It'll be 1 victory point there. The second player says, well, you know what, I'm going to bid 3. Third player says, I'm going to bid 0. And the fourth player then decides, you know what, I'm going to bid 0 too. When the second person bids 0, it actually pushes back the first person that bid 0, and they take over their spot. So once all that's paid on this one little board that shows 1, 2, 3, 4, we reestablish turn order. So it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then your turn begins. So you have to keep in mind that part of that is you are bidding victory points to jump ahead. So you have to really kind of measure how you're going to sit there and how much you want to bid to do it. So on a given player's turn, you pick up the meeples from a tile and you use kind of like a Mancala method to get the meeples down. So let's say I go here and I pick up these 2 greens and a yellow. I would sit there and drop 1 green here, 1 green there, and 1 yellow here. At the end of that, I would pick up those 2 yellows, and those would go to in front of me. Now, when you're dropping your last meeple, you have to place the meeple on a tile where there is at least 1 meeple of that color. So, in that case, where I dropped off the yellow in that tile, there was at least 1 yellow. I could pick them up. So, as you can see, as the game progresses, you're going to have less and less choices that you can make as people go playing and grabbing meeples. Now, since I ended on one of the ones that shows the little palm tree on the tile, I would grab one of these palm tree meeples and put them there. So let's say next player takes his turn. He picks up these 2 blues and a green. He would go 1, 2, 3. He would pick up these 3 merchant meeples, would sit there and put their camel there, as well as putting a second palm tree on there, and then they would actually grab the first 3 goods off of the market. So as you can see, as the game goes on, like with these green ones and all that, once they are done, they go right back into the bag, and then play continues. As you go doing this, you continue to either bid for turn order, do your turns, and then refill the market. So at the end, let's say all 4 players go, these 3 cards were taken, these cards slide down, so that is the part of the market. You get 3 new cards that come out. Same thing with the genies. If any of them get taken at the end of the 4 players' turns, you refill that market and then play continues. Now, as I mentioned before, with the goods cards, there are 9 different goods cards that they have available. One of the things that you can do during the game is you can actually sell sets of good cards, so individual different goods, to get gold coins. So if you find yourself you're running low on gold coins in the middle of the game, you can sit there and say, hey, I want to sell. Doesn't cost you an action. You still do get to move your meeples and all that. But to give you an idea, if you sell one individual good, it's 1. If you sell 2 different types of goods, it's 3. 3 different types of goods, you get 7. 4 different types of goods, you get 13. 5 different types of goods, you get 21. 6 different types of goods, you get 30. 7 different types, you get 40. 8 different types, you get 50. And if you have all 9 different types, you get 60. Now, at the end of the game, the sets that you do have will count towards your final scoring on the game itself. What's really neat is you have this neat little scoring sheet that they give you to help you figure out how many points you get at the end. It goes by simply gold coins as to how many victory points. Your viziers count 1 point, and if you have more than any other player, you get 10. The white elders, you get 2 per. The genies, however many points you get. The palm trees, you get 3 points per palm tree that you have control of a tile. The villages or palaces, however you want to call them, they give you 5 per. You check how many spots the camels you have. You get that amount of victory points. And then you sell off your goods, and you end up getting how much score you get from that. Add it all together, and the person that has the most amount of points wins. And there you have 5 tribes. So, my thoughts on this game are, when you look at it, let's break it down component-wise. Component-wise, this game is amazing. It's Days of Wonder. They're very well known for having high-quality components in their games. I mean, you look at any of their games that they have, Ticket to Ride, Small World, Relic Runners, all really, really good components that come into it, which usually gives their games a little bit higher price tag, but honestly, for the price that you pay for the game and the quality of the components, they knock it out of the park every single time, so there's no surprise there that they have great components. As far as the actual game itself, what I like about the game is when you look at it, like most Euros when you're playing, you have a small amount of choices that as the game goes on, they give you more and more choices that you can do. A good example of this is, let's say, like Caverna, where you start with a small amount, and then as turns go by, you get more available actions that you can do. This is the opposite. So you start with a lot of actions that you can do, a lot of move choices that you can do, and as the game progresses, it becomes fewer and fewer and fewer until either you hit one of the win conditions, which is either you run out of legal moves, or somebody puts out all their camels, like I said in the component overview. So it's one of those games where you really have to think about what you want to do, how you want to do your move. Do you want to clear out a tile? Do you want to, you want to optimally use your move to try and get the most amount of points possible. Now, with that being said, this is more of a style of a Euro where it falls into that whole, as they call the point salad type of thing, where you want to optimally do moves to get the most points while minimizing the amount of points that your opponents can get, which can lead to a little bit of analysis paralysis on certain players. Now, I have seen other reviews, things like, the Dice Tower, if you look at and some of the other ones that are online, they've kind of discussed this, and they said, they feel it kind of like balances itself out. Whereas at the beginning of the game, you're going to have like a bit more analysis paralysis because there's a lot of move, but as the game progresses on, there'll be less because there's less moves to do. And looking at it, I can kind of see where it can get the analysis paralysis part of it, because a person that will do that will overthink all their moves and sit there and say, okay, I'm going to do this, and this will knock this person out from doing this, or that person from doing that. But in reality, when you look at it, there really isn't too much like overthinking you can do, because depending on what other players do, it can completely change the way that the board lays out. So really, it's not like other Euros where you can kind of say, okay, 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 and kind of lay out the moves. Here you can sit there and go, okay, this is going to happen, and then the next person does the move that's completely different than what you even thought of, and then it throws off your whole thing. So I think, I mean, I'm on that fence of like it probably could, but probably won't type of give a person with analysis paralysis make the game longer, sort of say. Now, from my wife's point of view, when we played, she likes the game, but at the same time, she's like kind of like, I don't know about it. I think with a couple more playthroughs, it might change her mind on it. She told me last night, she was like, it's a good game, it's well designed, but it's not my favorite game. And for her, as I mentioned about the dice tower, they kind of mentioned that when you look at the board itself, it could look like chaos out on the board. And that's what she actually said. She says, you know, it looks so chaotic because there's so much stuff on the board, a lot of colors, a lot of things. And she didn't like that. And, you know, that's like, unlike my other review of Istanbul where everything looked nice and neat. That would be the only, maybe if I would say there were a negative to the game, is it does look a bit chaotic at the beginning. But I love the fact that it's like a puzzle that evolves as you're playing it. So it's becomes more difficult as the game goes on, which is really great because it really gets you thinking. Other than that, I mean, for me, it's a definite buy. I mean, thumbs up for me. I mean, really, really fun game. Really, really makes you think about what you want to do. And it is like point salad-y. Although most of the point salad games I play have been made from Stefan Feld, where literally it's like, you know, it's hey, let's find out how many points we can get on the thing. So I mean, with this, it's kind of the same. Surprisingly, considering when you look at Days of Wonder, most of the theme for their games are really, really like thematic. This one seems like it's really light on the theme. Like it doesn't have to be about, you know, you're this person trying to become the next Sultan type of thing. It could have just been whatever. But that can happen with Euros. So I mean, other than that, I'm more of a, as long as the game has great mechanics, I don't care what theme they paste on it. So for me, it's a hit. If you'd like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe. And I wanted to make an announcement. We actually do have the Mischievous Meeples Twitter pages live, as well as the Facebook page will be live. I'll put the links below so you guys can go on to those as well. Also, before I go, I sent out an email to a couple of guys. I sent one to Tom Bassel, to Rodney from Watch It Played, and from Talks from Crits Happen, letting them know that I wanted to thank them because they were the influence for me actually doing this and bringing this to you guys out there. And it was really nice of them to actually email me back, take some time, and appreciate that. So I wanted to tell them thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. I couldn't have done this without your guys' influence. So here's to the future. I will be trying to come out with at least a video a week for you guys. But we'll take it from here. And as I always say, guys, get out there and game. Take care.